welcome to Abyss Gazing, where we celebrate all things spooky and mental health.
I'm your co-host, Mark.
And I'm your co-host Josh, and we are joined by Brock and Steve from the band Gone Cold. How are you guys doing this evening?
What's up?
Good, doing well.
So you guys are what like pretty still relatively young bands. How long you guys been around? Because I feel like you guys have only been like around for like a year or two, correct?
Yeah.
For young band, but not young people. Well, I think we've all been collectively doing music for a while, but this band is pretty fresh. We just started putting music out, I think, last September, so it's been about a year since we started putting music out.
Okay.
Yep.
So how did you guys kind of like with this being such a young band, how did you guys end up like finding one another? Did you guys like play from like different bands and then kind of like collaborated, I guess is the better word.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened actually.
Mhm.
So I was in a band with the drummer for Gone-Cold called Ten My Legacy, which was around for I don't know 3 or 4 years. And I had played with Brock and Kevin's other band, Red Chief's Ransom, a few times. So I Brock wasn't in it when I played with them, but I had played with Kevin before, so I already knew Kevin a little bit.
So you guys are right now, you guys are celebrating the release of an EP called Misery in Hindsight. It came out a few months ago. Congratulations on that. I really love this album. It's one of the best EPs I've heard this year.
Thank
Um,
you.
Thank you.
Of course. Could you guys talk about the writing process? Because like we were talking about this before you guys started. You guys are already in the process of writing new music despite having this new release. Can you guys talk about the writing process for not only Misery in Hindsight, but also like Gone Cold as a collective?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're all just really big fans of uh, you know, old school metalcore and post hardcore and things like that. And we kind of like putting just like a modern twist on it. Um, as a guitar player, like I definitely would say that Kevin, our other guitar player and the clean vocalist in our band, definitely does a lot of work, kind of structuring like the beef or like the meat and the potatoes of the song, and he's constantly just like in his basement doing his thing, and coming out with demos and stuff like that. And then a lot of times like the song's like really great, just kind of the way it is, and sometimes we tweak it a little bit just to with our own individual tastes. And then I think Steve is a I always say that I think Steve's like the best screamer in metal, like always. And he puts like some really insightful and introspective lyrics in the verses. And we do some songs like without clean vocals and stuff, and it's just screaming the whole time. And it's just a little mix of just I think being fans of like kind of the way it used to be done with like some modern elements kind of sprinkled on top.
One of the things that I really appreciate about you guys is the juxtaposition that you guys have because you guys have these like really heavy moments and then you guys have these like really larger than life choruses also as well that are like very catchy, like cauterized and like in pieces are like two examples of like those like big swing for the like in terms of like choruses and stuff like that. Can you guys, how's that work in terms of like creating that a smooth transition from these like larger, these like almost like arena sized choruses to like these like you know grindcore esque punch your neighbor kind of mosh pit verses and stuff.
Um, so I mean, what Brock said is pretty true. We're for the most part all big fans of like classic metalcore with the super catchy choruses and stuff like that. Me and Kevin are also very big into like modern metal, like stuff like Invent Animate and Era, The Ghost Inside, Wage War, stuff like that. So when we're writing, I think a lot of times Kevin does put a big emphasis on the choruses, especially from his part. That's like his part in writing vocals. So he's he's very good at it too. I will give him that.
So as a vocalist, Steve, and like collaborating with like another vocals, like how do you guys end up writing some of the like what's the process for you guys writing lyrics? Like does the hook come first and then you kind of build upon it? Do you have an idea for a song or is it kind of collaborative in that way?
Um, for the most part, I mean, Kevin's a kind of a fucking mastermind. Uh, he usually, like Brock says, he has like the basic structure of songs for the most part laid out most of the time. And typically, Kevin already has a chorus in mind, if not already fully like laid out. So a lot of times what ends up happening is Kevin already has a chorus and I'll get him to send me the lyrics and I'll kind of try to write around what Kevin already has so that it's all cohesive.
So I know Mark has not had the opportunity to see you guys live because he's in Mississippi. I've had the
What's
chance to
wrong
see.
with Mississippi?
That just means
Dang.
that just means that they got to get down there and tour through Mississippi for you.
Dang.
We're down. We're down.
I mean, at least my state comes with barbecue and fried catfish. So,
I lived in
Those are good things.
I lived in I lived in New Orleans for a time. I know it's not like the same state or anything, but it's like close enough, I guess.
yeah, it's
Depending where you're
about
at in Mississippi.
it. We're about as far north of Mississippi as you can get without being in Memphis.
Mm.
So, it's about 5 to 6 hours to New Orleans.
It's fun down there.
uh, but one of the things that like I've gotten the opportunity to see with you guys, the live aspect is kind of getting to hear a little bit behind the scenes. And I've been curious since I've seen you guys last. You guys talked about the song 29, which we're gonna get ready to hear at the end of this show. But you guys talked about it being a very personal song to you guys, and I'm wondering if you guys can not just for 29, but in terms of like songwriting, can you like how vulnerable do you guys get with like lyric writing and kind of when it comes to songwriting?
It's kind of funny you brought up 29. That's like the only conceptual song that we have. Um, so I guess if you want, I can explain what 29 is if you want me to.
Go for it.
So 29, we kind of had like the structure of that song laid out, and we wanted to put a sample in that song, and we ended up going with a sample from a John Wayne Gacy interview. So I kind of was just like, well, do you guys mind if I just write like a conceptual song about John Wayne Gacy from his point of view?
Hmm. We're all definitely big fans of like horror movies and like the darker aspects and creepy things about society and stuff. So it was really cool to kind of like delve into a mindset like that and have a song be about that. And also it was kind of like a hot topic at the time because I think like the Dahmer series had just come out and stuff like that, and there was like
Yeah.
this like serial killer like revamp kind of, if you will, just like people being interested in the topic and watching documentaries and series and stuff about it.
That is that's wild to me. So the two times that I've seen you guys play that song live, it was dedicated to somebody's dad in the band. And it's like that I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
that's nice."
that's
That's
drowning.
yeah, that's drowning.
Oh, fair. Fair. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm still
Very
like
good.
getting to learn your discography, so um but yeah, so we're
I
getting
think
ready to go
I
ahead, Mark.
think what's funny talking about that. I think the first time I did a podcast with Josh was about
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer and the movie that Netflix put out right after they put out the documentary series.
Yeah, how did you guys feel about that?
It's
This,
okay.
The documentary series I thought was cool, especially because you got to hear a lot of the tapes that they got while talking to him in prison. The movie that they did shortly thereafter
Was not
is
that great. It was
it was okay.
Yeah, Netflix is just kind of beating it within it. So,
And I couldn't help but see Jim Parsons as just Sheldon in a suit acting as a lawyer.
every time that guy is totally typecast at this point.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting ready to hear the single from you guys. It's called Cauterize. Anything you guys want to tell us about anything about this song in particular? Or I guess like when you guys are like jumping into deciding what to do as singles, like what's the process like for you guys?
Uh, you want to go on this one, Brock? You want me to go?
Well, singles, like Steve said before, we kind of do the recording process in like 3-day chunks, and usually in those 3 days we can get 2 songs done. And a lot of times, like the song that we intend on being the single that we release first, or just like a single in general, like isn't the song that we wind up releasing as a single, because it's just like after the fact and it's been recorded, and we just hear it back, and a lot of times like the other song will kind of take life to it. So we just kind of like get the songs back and then just listen to them as a band and just kind of decide. Atrium's really awesome with getting us something to listen to like on the way home, and those are great producers to work with. They do really quality work. So we kind of just like to listen to what it is at first, and then we kind of decide like what we want to put out. And then once we hear it back, we kind of think of a concept so we can, put a cool video to it. But as far as Carterize goes, I don't know, it'll kick your ass, and it was a lot of fun to write. And it's really riffy. It's got a really, really bitey, kind of beat down breakdown. And then it's got some kind of like, My Last Serenade almost kind of chorus. It's just like a really good balance of like all things about melodic and kind of more rhythmic metal.
Right. Well, this is the song Cauterize off the EP Misery in Hindsight. The band is called Gone Cold. If you guys like what you hear, click the links in the show notes below. We'll be back on the other side to talk about 1979's Phantasm. Self-respect, not anything but
If you or someone you know is listening to this podcast right now and you're struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, we encourage you guys to please reach out. This is the heartbeat of why we do what we do. Suicide is currently the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, and as of this recording, there are 132 suicides that take place each and every day on American soil. And when you scale back internationally, there are 800,000 successful suicides. That is one death roughly every 40 seconds. So if you or someone you know is struggling, you guys can go to victimsandvillains.net/hope. That resource is going to be right in the description wherever you guys are currently listening or streaming this. There you'll find resources that include the National Suicide Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-8255. You can also text HELP to 741-741. We also have a plethora of other resources, including churches, getting connected with counselors, LGBT resources like the Trevor Project, and also veteran hotline as well. Please, if you hear nothing else in the show, understand that you listening to this right now, have value and worth. We get it. Suicide, depression, mental health, these are hard topics, and the stigma around them doesn't make it any easier. But please consider the resources right in the descriptions below, wherever you guys are listening, because once again, you have value and you have worth. So please stay with us.
Hey, welcome back to Abyss Gazing. We're still hanging out with the guys of Gone Cold, and they brought us the 1979 movie Phantasm, as I alluded to before the break. This movie is ridiculously weird. Let me just say that I've only ever seen this movie one time, and I texted Mark at the start of the third act, and I was like, this movie's such a fever dream. And so I'm kind of curious. You guys pitched us a bunch of movies, but this is the one we ended up settling on. So what is it about?
If this was the weird one, what were the other choices?
So the other ones were movies we'd already covered. So this was the only one that we hadn't covered yet. So I was like, it's 70s. Let's jump into it. And
to be fair, I think I pitched Color Out of Space, and that one's pretty fucking weird too.
Yeah, we just covered Color Out of Space, like I think in the end of July, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
yeah, what's weird?
So what's weird?
One of the things that gets me about Phantasm is like Tubi and Peacock and all these streaming services has Phantasm, then 3, 4, and Ravager. Why doesn't anybody carry Phantasm 2?
That's weird. That's actually one of the better ones.
Is it owned by somebody else, or?
I don't know.
No, our friends over at Wellgo Entertainment own all of the rights to it, and so it is quite possible that they don't have the rights.
Watch it somehow be owned by Disney or something.
I mean, it looks like you can rent it on everything or buy it digitally, but it's not on any actual streaming service to watch like the others are.
No,
just the second one.
I'm with Brock on this, man. I want to see release the Disney cut of Phantasm 2.
Release the Snyder cut.
So what is it about this movie that you guys brought to us?
Like, why do I like that movie?
What is it about Phantasm that you guys were like, oh, let's do this?
I don't know. I like Phantasm because it's pretty weird and it has like a lot of out there concepts in it. And I always thought Angus Scrimm was such a cool like villain in a horror movie. Just that boy.
I mean, we used to use a clip from the movie during our live set.
Yeah, we did.
I remember during the 80s seeing the clips about with the little steel ball and the spikes. Did that thing actually have a name? Did they ever say what that thing was called?
I don't think so. I think it's just there's a lot of like left to be determined by your own imagination in that movie, I think. I don't even know what that movie's fucking about. Like it's just like, you know, I've seen it, and it's just like it's I feel like it was just like the like the shock rock, or like the gore value of like the 70s. They were like, let's make a really visually intense movie, and that's exactly how I feel about it. And the cinematography in it is fantastic. Like it's visually very pleasing for sure.
And the caretaker, the I forgot his name. You just said his name, but I'm horrible with him, so my bad. But
The tall man.
Yeah.
yeah,
Tall man.
I remember seeing him kind of like when Pinhead came out. You kind of saw him kind of everywhere, except a lot of people didn't know what he was from. It was
Yeah, they're
kind of
like
weird.
he's like this ominous villain, you know, like yeah, like Pinhead or like Darth Vader, you
Yeah.
know,
Well,
like
And it's just been the last few years that I actually watched the first couple of Phantasms actually, and I always knew who he was though. I had never seen the movies until the last few years, but I knew who he was and what he was from, and he had the little steel ball of death.
well, that's the thing about like Phantasm is that it gets like aligned with Hellraiser in the fact that here you have both of these really weird uh, unique franchises that no one really knows what to do that came in the midst of this growing slasher boom. So I think I think to me, like I would consider, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I would consider like Phantasm kind of like a genre deep cut. Like you only really know about it if you're in the genre. Or you
Yeah.
might know
It
about it, but you've not seen it.
it kind of falls in that category with things like Pieces, the original Maniac, and Tourist Trap.
Yeah.
Those like kind of obscure ones that only weirdos like us know about. That's kind of where Phantasm, but it had a bit more popularity. People knew what it was, that knew a relevant amount of horror, but it wasn't ever mainstream. It wasn't ever as big as the others. And it came out, the first one came out, what, like a year after Halloween?
Yep.
I'm sure it definitely pushed the envelope a little bit too, you know, for like mainstream
Yeah.
cinema.
Well, it's also like a really weird genre piece because it's not quite a slasher film. It's kind of like lends into like the sci-fi elements. It kind of like blends itself to like all of these like little boxes to kind of become this really unique, weird experience. Because like I got done watching it today and like I'm a lot like Brock. Like I had no idea like what I had just seen. Like I've seen this movie before, but I was like, I don't know like really like I how to like talk about this or like articulate what I just said. So I just went to like Reddit, just like went down this like what is this actually about? And dude, people on Reddit have some like wild conspiracy theories about this movie.
It's, I mean, I thought it was pretty obvious what it was about, but that's just me.
I didn't get it. It's just like there's just, you know, there's a bunch of people walking around, and they're all about to get murked, you know. Like I guess that's like the one like correlation, is that if you're not this tall guy, or like no idea how dude didn't get sued by George Lucas for like the Jawas that were coming around killing everyone. But I guess just like everybody that wasn't those people were just marked for death, you know. That's kind of like my takeaway.
What's really funny is that like if you Google like for Google to actually like explain the concept of phantasm, it's about the tall man essentially I think it said like the tall man basically resurrects dead people, turns them into dwarfs to do his bidding, which to me sounds more like ghoulies than it does phantasm.
But
But at
they
but at
also,
the end, he it's like he made all of that up
That
to
yeah.
deal with like the death of his brother and some other family member or something. So like I don't know. I guess like this dude's really sick in the head, and then, you know,
Well,
that's
I think in later Phantasm movies they also kind of allude to it being like interdimensional sort of thing as well.
well, I think they did in this one too, because they show him with the two like metal pillars that he walks
Yeah,
up and
yeah.
puts his hands on and goes into the other dimension with the evil Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, because you have the scene too where like Mike gets like sucked into that like weird vortex area, and
Yeah.
then like brother pulls him out.
Yeah.
All right, because like, can someone like explain to me like the duality of like the tall man and like the blonde chick from the beginning? Like every time that there's like a murder in this movie, like it just flips back and forth between those, and I was like, what am I watching? Like, what is happening?
I think I kind of took it that it was like they were one in the same, or he was like a shapeshifter or something, and maybe every tall man has just wanted to be a beautiful woman at some time. You know what I mean? Like, who knows?
Well, I know in one of the other Phantasm movies, there's like a girl that Reggie dude is like has following him around for a while, and then they go to this hotel place, and she ends up having one of those fear things like in her head, controlling her. So I
Okay.
don't know if that's like the same thing with that girl or not, but it could
That's
be.
that's kind of the way I took it, is that she was controlled by him.
Full disclosure, I've only ever seen the first one.
Same, same. So me and you, Brock, are on the same page.
Right, right.
Uh, so like the movie like opens up on like the blonde chick like seducing a guy, killing him, and then it's
Mhm.
never seen or heard from until like the last like 15 minutes of this movie.
My question is, how many people go? How many people in this town go to bang in the woods in like the cemetery, man? Like, ain't nobody got a truck or a house. Or...
Well, we know at least one guy's got a 440 Barracuda. So that car was probably the highlight for me. That and Squirt Gun Head with the metal ball.
That that's of all the things you could question about the movie, I would dare to say that the fact that like the little brother Mike like goes to watch in the cemetery, goes to watch Jody, his older brother, have sex is like slightly more questionable than cemetery sex.
It was the '70s, man.
At the same time,
It was
it's
probably so
also
relatable to so many people in America at the time. Who knows?
he weighed the risk versus reward, possibly seeing my brother's wiener versus seeing his woman's boobs. I mean, that
Why not both?
but I mean, he also MacGyvered a way to open the door, the ultimate key: a hammer, a push pin, scotch tape, and a shotgun shell.
And he gives that kid from The Shining a run for his money for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
I'm
I was watching that last night, and he started MacGyvering the door lock, the key, and my wife's like, "What is he doing?" I was like, "He's opening that door. That's what he's doing." She's like, "How's he going to do that?" I was like, just watch," and
of
it
all the
worked.
ways you can open up a door. So for like, I guess Mark and Steve, since you guys have seen like some of the other movies, is there like a point where they do like a prequel and explain this, like explain the like the tall man and like the trans-dimensional stuff, or does it just get weirder?
There is one of them where it kind of goes back in time. Like they go into, I guess, like one of the other dimensions, and he's like back in time, and he sees the tall man before he becomes like evil, and
Is
he's
that
like,
3 or 4?
I think so. I think it's three. But I remember he's like, I want to say it's like almost like Civil War era that they're in,
Okay.
and
Well,
he,
they did show the picture of him in this one on the horse and carriage hearse.
Yeah.
oh yeah, you're
Would
right.
would he like
So
discovers it?
Was he
that
on the
could
good
have.
side or the bad side?
They just showed him on the carriage.
That's yet to be determined. He's not even like really depicted as a villain in this one. Like he's just kind of a creepy guy that just says like ominous things and just yells boy really weirdly.
I don't know. He was sniffing up the ice cream truck pretty hard in that one scene.
Is it weird to sniff ice cream now?
I mean, when you stand over the ice cream man going like a cokehead,
Yeah,
possibly.
it's something you should do by yourself.
Make sure no one else is watching.
You know?
Yeah, there was 5 movies total, including Ravager, which was surprising that like not quite 20 years later is when they put out Ravager.
I wonder if they got more or less funding as the movies progressed.
I think it was less.
Yeah,
I would also say probably less.
I think didn't 5 have the big ball thing like the size of a house flying through cities and stuff?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh shit.
So I guess like
feel-
the question is like, are the rest worth pursuing?
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like the rest of these we should probably watch and explore further.
I think like the first 3 movies are pretty decent, and then it kind of gets real strange after that.
Wait, you stranger than this?
It sort of.
I mean, that could only make them awesome though, too. Because some of the weirdest movies that have the most like what were they thinking moments end up being some of the most fun to watch.
Did you guys watch Mandy?
Yes.
I didn't see it.
Wait. Mark, are you telling me you don't like Mandy?
I didn't like Mandy.
Dang. You like
Bro.
Cheddar Goblins, dude?
Bro, yeah.
I watched it. I don't know. I had a hard time getting into that one. That one was weird, but not in a good way.
You're right.
Nothing worse than bad weird.
Weird in a great way.
You're biased though. You have like a crush on Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I also host a Nicolas Cage podcast, so yes.
Hey, seeing him as Superman for those brief moments in that last Flash movie was fucking fantastic.
Best part of that movie. I was like, when they showed that in the theater, I was the only one that was like, yes, yes.
That was pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, I kind of want to see that movie where he's Dracula. I'm not gonna lie.
Renfield?
Yeah.
It's actually a lot of fun.
My favorite thing about Nick Cage that I have ever seen on the internet is, I think this was probably like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And I guess like him and Vince Neil from Motley Crue are like really good friends. And like they're just like out on the town, like getting fucked up. And like Vince Neil's like yelling at some valet guy. And you know, Nicolas Cage is like, Vinny, stop, it's not worth it. Like I'm like, what a crowd, right?
I desperately want to see this video or read this article. Like, God, that sounds amazing.
Google that shit. It's worth it.
Right. I have homework after we get done. Apparently, that's fine.
to watch 4 more Phantasms.
No, to watch this Vince Neil, Nicolas Cage altercation. Apparently.
So apparently they did talk about doing a Phantasm 6, but after Angus Scrimm died, it's kind of been put on the back burner. They don't know if they're going to do a 6 or not at this point.
Hear me out. We'll connect the two conversations.
You're going to have
Nicolas Cage is the tall man. Come on, he would crush it.
No.
I'm pretty fucking into that.
He's weird enough for it.
God,
Well,
that would be horrible.
I don't know, man, because I feel like Phantasm is one of those things that you could literally do anything with in terms of like franchise. Like having only seen the first one, like I feel like you could introduce things like shape shifting and like, time travel and a lot of like these like weird elements. So like the tall man could theoretically be any person, including Nick Cage.
I mean, they
Yeah.
could bring him back as one of the evil Oompa Loompas, so the evil Jawas. That's a possibility.
They have reserved that for what's the guy from Hugh, that's not Hugh Laurie. The guy that there is playing the new Oompa Loompas in Wonka. Hugh
Hugh
Grant.
Grant.
Yeah. See, look, you get a high budget, you make Hugh Grant the evil people, and then you make Nick Cage the tall guy. Boom. Right there. $1 million.
Sounds good.
Oh, that was
I'm like genuinely curious if you guys like have like any conspiracy theories about this, because like I was like, as I was going down this like thing of Reddit, like I'm like kind of curious about how you guys like interpret this movie, because this and all of its weirdness.
I don't know. My overall theory for Phantasm is the tall man is stealing bodies and stuff from the cemeteries to make the little like Oompa Loompa dudes, because he's trying to basically take over that dimension.
Kind of like a
Beautiful,
pennywise approach.
beautiful piece of 70s cinematography, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
I mean, you don't really have to go into any
it,
details.
unless he's creating an army of evil Jawas to take over Earth. Because knowing that they have the giant killer ball in the fifth one, that would make me think they were coming after Earth.
I think they were. I think that was the overall purpose.
Because when you watch three, if I remember right, was almost dystopian in nature.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I'm
do remember that.
I'm thinking that it's like the Jawas that can't sell anything on Tatooine. You know, they're really bad with like rusty power converters, so they get like shipped off to the tall guy and got to deal with like the metal spike ball thing.
That was pretty. That was pretty epic though when they first show the steel ball thing killing somebody and turns him into basically a squirt gun.
It was,
Right,
yeah, like
nice.
that movie touched on a lot on like I don't know, like when you're like a 10-year-old kid and you're like walking down a dark hallway by yourself and you're thinking of all the impossible ways that you can get murked. Like that movie does all those impossible ways.
That's probably one of the weirdest ways.
It's like, it's like when you're in like a swimming pool and you're like a kid and you know you're like, oh, there's like a shark at the other end of that pool, but there isn't. It's just like completely unrealistic, but it's just that like internal fear that you have. I don't know. That's how I felt about it.
So they're actually called sentinels,
The Jawas.
the little steel balls.
Oh, Sentinels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right, because I remember now. I think I looked up Phantasm on Etsy or something, and I found one of those balls somebody was selling that they made, and I think that it said Sentinel.
Yep.
Interesting.
Best known for their ability to jam into a human skull and squirt out the blood.
And turn you into a Bloody Mary.
Yes.
Can someone explain the Sentinels to me? Because like that is also like another like weird thing I just didn't understand about this movie.
Okay. So in the mausoleum, I think it's called, down there in the morgue, there was a door that opened up and they had all the evil Jawas and the door into the other dimension. The Sentinel was kind of roaming those halls, protecting it.
So was it like essentially like a security guard that
It was
overprotective?
It was a Sentinel.
I'm aware, but I'm like trying to like compare it to something that like I understand.
The name is pretty straightforward as to what it does.
A sentinel is like a drone or like a bodyguard or something, if you will.
Yeah, I know. I know in one of the later movies, like a door or something opens up and there's like a shitload of them like flood out of it too.
All right. Clearly, I'm not like into the sci-fi genre as like as my ignorance is displaying prominently right now.
I feel like we need to watch more of these.
I mean, I'm 100% okay with that. Like, Phantasm is one of those genre, like, it's one of those pieces of like genre history that like I'm really like curious about, and like especially after this podcast, like I'm like more willing to like want to jump into it because like I really like starting a genre like a franchise or a trilogy, and then like going like the full thing, like to kind of see like the complete story. Like I did it earlier this year with Subspecies, and like it was like a pleasant surprise. One of the weirder, quirkier vampire things I've seen, and I'm not really into vampire movies, but I would be down to cover more Phantasm movies if you wanted to, Mark.
That would be kind of awesome. We should do a Phantasm series.
We can do it in November if you want. We'll talk after the show.
Yeah. Phantasm.
All right. I don't really think there's anything else to this movie's like so weird. Like I think there's like a lot of like someone like wrote on there that this is like a also like a metaphor for like Mike's like grief after like his brother, and like
Well,
I don't
I
I
mean,
don't
if
know if
you want to
the
get into metaphorical movies, It Follows as a metaphor for STDs.
well, yes, I am aware of that. I am telling you one of the theories that I read on my long Reddit trail today.
I'd say this. I'd say the same thing about it. It follows.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely a metaphor for some STDs, dude.
That's what I said. It Follows. Yeah. Yeah.
That movie, I thought that movie was pretty cool, honestly.
That was one of the better horror movies that's come out in the last 10 years for sure.
Oh, man. That was one of the ones I was least impressed with that everybody loved.
Get out of here, Mark.
Oof.
All right. On
That's
that note,
up there with Megan. Like, oh, God. Megan was horrible, too.
all right. All right. On that note, that is gonna wrap it up for us. Steve, Brock, thank you guys for hanging out with us, bringing Phantasm, this weird little delight that apparently has now expanded into a full series podcast. So, but on that note, the EP is called Misery in Hindsight. Where can people find it?
Everywhere that you enjoy music.
Yep, pretty much.
All right, well, we're getting ready to hear there's another song from that album. It's called 29. It is the John Wayne Gacy song you talked about earlier, which is a great spooky note to end this one on. Mark, where can people find you online?
Instagram. Titanium Juggernaut painting miniatures and junk. Little war game models because I'm a nerd like that. Yeah.
And you guys are also on like socials if you want to go ahead and tell people where we can follow you.
Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram as well. All our socials, I think the handle for them is Gone-Cold VA.
All right, well, we'll provide links for all that stuff in the show notes below as well, where you guys can check out some of their music videos, the EP that we've been talking about. And yeah, you guys can find me. I'm on Letterboxd at Captain Nostalgia. You guys can follow my other podcast, That's High Praise, and this podcast wherever you guys get your podcasts from. You guys can follow our parent company, Victims and Villains. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and wherever you guys get your podcast from. And you guys can catch Gone Cold performing live October 7th at Another Round Bar and Grill for our first maybe annual, but it'll be Monster Mosh for Mental Health, our benefit show. So they're going to bring it, and they're going to bring the heavy for us. So until next time, remember, the longer you gaze into the abyss, the more the abyss gazes back into you.